All right. Hey, it's 5 minutes after, and we appreciate everyone that's here and joined with us on time. We'll start with welcome you all to our Gen AI Conversational Bots webinar. We are going to talk about a couple things today. One is go through the business case for using AI in generative AI in your business. We'll do some demos for you today, and then we'll also provide you with some technical background on how we've created. So let's start with our starting lineup for
Um,
today's event.
John, could you stop the music from the background?
Yeah, was it too loud? I apologize. Um,
Thank you.
so let's go with our starting lineup for today's event. Is will be myself, John Esmail. I'll be your host today, and I'll be working with our two technical people in our organization, Sonia, who's a machine learning architect and has done a lot of work with generative AI, as well as Umer, who's our director of client data services. So before we get too deep into the event, I want to try to give you a little bit background on Confiz and who we are. Confiz is a Microsoft partner that has roots in many different areas. So we are a Microsoft Biz App partner, which means dynamic, as well as data, AI, and digital app and innovation. Our company's been around for about 20 years, 20 plus years now, and we've had the fortune to work with many large companies around the globe. And we have about 700 plus employees worldwide. While we work in many different industries, our data strategy, monetization, data analytics services are fit for retail, telecom, CPG, manufacturing, FinServe, and the supermarket, hypermarket environment. The biggest use cases we see for generative AI is in both external use cases for customers, especially people selling products and services, and also internal for a company to use it to help make their people smarter. So we work in a number of different platforms. Primarily, we're a Microsoft Azure shop, but also work in Google and AWS. And from a technical background, we use Azure Fabric, Azure Synapse, Databricks, Tableau, Snowflake alike. And we do bring in other third-party applications when needed, depending on the infrastructure we're in. And then to take a look at all the companies that we worked with, here's our, I call it our NASCAR slide. So all our logos that if we had a race car, they'd be on our race car. And you can see while we deal with customers all around the globe, some of the big names are here in the US, such as Nordstrom's, Mars, Bed Bath and Beyond, Crocs, and Dish Network, and many more. So with that, what is all the hype around Gen AI? Well, um, Gen AI is something that's fairly new to the industry. While AI's been around for a very long time, the Gen AI use case has really taken off over the last year and a half. Whenever OpenAI uh, brought it out to public use with ChatGTP and everyone else to follow, and we're going to expect some um, uh, big demands from the enterprise for using generative AI, and it's really predicted to add a lot to our global economy. And you can see some of the numbers here during provoked by different research companies. The annual rate of 37%, we're going to wait to 20,032 or 302. That number there should be 2030. So I apologize for that typo here. But if you catch it, we caught it too. It just didn't make the last revision of the slides. Um, and we really see a increase of value with generative AI is in the area of productivity. So whether it's productivity of users trying to craft better emails faster, reviewing documentations or even contracts for accuracy, uh, also um, looking up information quicker or faster for internal company use, that all contributes to productivity. And I bet many of you have experienced it already with your use of Chat GPT and crafting documents or emails. So with that, there's a lot for us to cover today, and I'll turn it over to Umar, who's going to talk about the use cases. Then we're going to talk about some of the actual customer stories we have. Then we'll get into a demo, and then Sonia's going to end the day with the technical details behind it. So stay for that. That'll be very engaging. And then we'll do a Q&A at the end. So with that, I'll turn it over to Umar. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, John, for setting up the context and the introduction. So as John said, a lot of us are already experiencing generative AI in some personal usage through ChatGPT and similar co-pilots and other solutions. But what's it got for businesses? So broadly, it has four areas where it is going to impact businesses, especially in terms of needs it would be addressing. Like John mentioned, there is an increase in productivity that we expect generative AI to bring. As with AI, it brings automation of processes. Um, and the topic of today as well is around improving of customer experience. So marketeers have been trying to crack the code around personalizing customer experience and making engaging experiences for customers, and generative AI is going to leapfrog that for them. And another support that would be brought to the workplace is help in creating content. And a lot of us are already experiencing it. So when we talk about productivity, we see internal virtual assistants and co-pilots helping us with a lot of tasks. And one of the interesting tasks, I think, is business analytics. So a lot of us who might not be making reports and dashboards on their own would now be able to use a co-pilot and a solution to have a good quality of analysis at their fingertips. Um, so all of this means that AI, generative AI, is going to create a new revenue stream for a lot of businesses, and we are going to see a true revolution in how business is done in a lot of ways. What does Gartner say about all of the hype around different technologies of different applications of generative AI? So in the near term, so you'd see the yellow area is what Gartner sees as something that is going to materialize very soon. Within the next 12 months, we are going to see a lot of productive applications of knowledge graphs, and especially Gen AI enabled virtual assistants. And that's the topic of today. What we are going to look at is a few of the use cases and some examples of generative AI virtual assistants. So generative AI virtual assistants, like John said, can help in a couple of ways. Specifically, it can help empower your sales teams or your people within the organization, and and your external customers where you want to improve their experience and engage them. So we all have seen some form of shopping assistants. Now they're going to be very conversational and interactive in nature and very personalized in how they understand our needs, how they recommend products, and how they convince us that this is the right product for us. So based on all of the reasoning that they can do, they are going to be able to convince customers and hence increase customer conversion. And given a similar tool in the hands of the sales team where they can understand customer needs, understand products better, they would be able to serve customers better, and this would resultantly increase their efficiency and help them sell better. And for internal customers, again, we see a lot of knowledge base and a lot of policies and a lot of scattered information within organizations, which can be streamlined through using such generative AI chatbots or virtual assistants. So if we were to look at them on a quadrant graph of, say, internal customers, where you say employees are being empowered or enabled, and customer experience is being improved with the high impact and strategic nature of the particular use case. You'd see on the top right, virtual shopping assistants and conversational commerce and personalized recommendations are amongst the highest impact initiatives for the generative AI to improve customer experience. On the bottom right, although it's on the bottom, but it's still high in its nature on employee enablement. You would see enterprise conversational knowledge mining having a high impact on how it would bring value to businesses. So these are the areas that are going to bring high value. And like Gartner's impact radar showed, this is something that is going to be materialized and be in production soon. And a lot of companies already have a lot of these products and the chatbots and all of these conversational agents live and working for them. So how do you do this generative AI journey? We recommend we follow this foundation, which is our AI use case accelerator model. So selecting and delivering the first use case for a generative AI product is going to be amalgamation of all of these three disciplines. If you see, one of them is data transformation, where integrating and using the current data sources in their own shape and form and leveraging them for generative AI use cases is very important. Building an AI foundation where understanding your organizational structure, gearing it up for generative AI initiatives and aligning people is very important. And obviously the infrastructure and all of the teams that need to be in place and the roles that need to be in place to ensure that, and especially partnerships as well, to ensure that the first generative AI use case is delivered in a responsible way. So in what we call responsible AI is making sure that there is ethical usage of generative AI, legal issues, and all of the frameworks that manage risk and govern data are being followed. So this is the foundation where intersection of all of these would create Gen AI value, and this is something we want to suggest as a model to follow for the first use case you do. For any business use case or for any initiative any business takes, it's important that it delivers value for the business. So for selecting the first use case that you do for your generative AI journey, this is a framework that is very helpful in selecting the first use case. So it starts off by discovering all potential use cases within your organization, where you engage with stakeholders in workshops, you analyze business priorities, and generate ideas and bring them on a piece of paper or on a chart, and you have all of the potential use cases listed out. All of them might not be generative AI use cases, and you'll discover it when you do the feasibility assessment. And a lot of them might even be sci-fi ideas. And when you evaluate them technically, it would be established how easy it would be to implement them or how realistic they are. So the impact radar from Gartner already showed that there are some technologies that are going to mature in 5 to 6 years, and there are some use cases that will be mature within the next year or so. So in any case, doing a feasibility assessment on every use case, scoring it for the ease of implementation is a step that needs to be taken. The next step that has to be taken is to ensure that you clearly know what this use case would deliver in terms of its value proposition. It either has to have a financial impact on the business, or it has to be clearly laid out that it is going to bring in efficiency in processes, which can be measured. it is going to increase either productivity or customer experience, which we can measure through NPS or CSAT or some other kind of survey. And any value proposition could also be a competitive edge where you are going to be doing something that your competitors aren't doing already, and it would help you leapfrog them in this race. Finally, a business impact mapping needs to be done where success criteria has to be clearly laid out. The current state of every KPI that is going to impact have to be established, and a mechanism to ensure that you are constantly monitoring the impact of the business this particular use case brings in needs to be done. Once this is done, you would have a similar chart out there where you will have all the use cases laid out. And you would want to pick all of the ones from the quick wins, where the first use case should definitely be from the quick wins, where you do a use case that brings in value, which you can do in a matter of weeks rather than months. And it establishes value for generative AI within the organization, and it builds up the momentum to try and take on high ROI potential and maybe some other kind of use cases which might be a little high effort and low reward, but those are going to come in once you've done the quick wins and the high ROI potential ones. With that, I would want John to go through some of the use cases and case studies that we've done with customers. Over to you, John.
All right, thank you. Yeah, so we have some great use cases here that we've worked on with customers that are really showing to be productive in their ecosystem. So the first use case here is for a large camping or reseller of fishing and camping and outdoor equipment. You might have heard of them, Bass Pro Shops. They're also the combination of Cabela's, if you guys are familiar with either of those two locations. And what we did for them is they had a use case that they have some items that they sell that require a lot of knowledge to really effectively sell them. And it also could be very geographic specialty knowledge. So what we did is the first use case is to help them with selling their fishing boats, fishing equipment associated with the boats. And what they found is not all their sales reps were at the same level of expertise and experience with doing this. So we helped them build a generative AI or for their internal use for their salespeople. It's kind of like the ask the expert type area. So that way, when they're helping a customer pick out the right fishing boat for the type of fishing they want in the area that they fish, they could better answer the questions and come to a more solid solution and recommendation of what the people need. And this is just as general of a use case that I have with a lot of AI is how do we bring the experience of people that have been doing it for years and years to the fingertips and the mouths of the people that are getting new in that industry to help them out. So this is, while it's rolled out for internal use and it's helping their salespeople, which is doing things like having customers make decisions quicker, increasing their sales, and also strengthening the loyalty, because customers know when they go into these stores, they can talk to someone that's knowledgeable and have that industry or that domain experience in the products that they're selling. So this is a great use case. The next one has to do with our HR assistant. Excuse me. Um, uh, I'm always in that boat that I feel bad asking HR the same questions or questions I should easily be able to read through the documents and figure out. But sometimes I just want a quick answer, and sometimes it's quicker just to ask someone. Well, rather than burdening the few HR people, we've developed an AI assistant that allows internal employees to ask their custom questions, get their answers refined, to more specific information of what they're looking for. So, customer from an employee engagement standpoint, these are great because these um, generative AI systems work 7 by 24. So when people are on the weekends or in the evenings trying to deal with questions like what happens with vacation time or what are my benefits? I have to go to the hospital or need a dentist. They can get this information pretty quickly without having to read through reams of documentations on their own. So this is a great use case for generative AI for internal use. The next thing that we're going to talk about is for a government organization that helps with housing and loans for their people. So this is one in which that it's an all-in-one shop where you can go find your home and then really get help with how do I get the money, how do I borrow the money so I can afford this home. And through this digital assistance that we created for the government that allows the people to speak in plain English, whether they're typing in text or speaking into a microphone, to help find the house with the specifications they need, and then also the more advances. Um, what kind of loan can I qualify for? What's my interest rates? What's my payment terms? And just allows a user to interact with natural language rather than having to fill out some complex forms. The next use case that that we've done has to do with really a product selector, and that's where we really see some of the advantages too for external use is using Gen AI for product selectors. Many companies' product selectors are just very rudimentary. They have sliders or step you through a set of questions that are more of a like Q&A chat box, where a generative AI, the person could describe in more detail things about their hair, how often they wash it, what do they dye their hair, is their hair dry, on and on, just be able to talk with the bot, and then they can come back with tailored recommendations of what products that they should be buying based on your situation. And then they found that by doing this, then they're able to create customer loyalty. They can come in, they can trust this AI assistant to give them updated advice if things are changing with what's going on. And people appreciate that when they're trying to select the right hair care, because I know there's many things to pick out. I'm not a good example because I just buy whatever's cheapest on the shelves, but that's a different story. And then our last example is our Auto Genie. We named it, and that is in the same sense of a product selector. Um, Again, it's taking the users from having to go in and list a bunch of items on a slider, like I want it more fuel efficient, I want it bigger. This way, they can just describe by speaking into the microphone on their computer or talking into an app on their phone and or typing out text, or even if some people use WhatsApp, they can interact with WhatsApps on this, and they could type in. And we'll show the demo on this and this in the HR assistant, but this shows that the user can go in, ask for the kind of car that suits their needs, and the system will provide tailored recommendations based on the questions the consumer asked. And these are all use cases of organizations that are early adopters to Gen AI that are really providing great results on either steady customers, increased revenue, time to making sales. They're all items that are quantifiable with some net results. And with that, we're going to go into the demo next, and then don't forget that at After the demo, we have Sonia that's really going to dig into a little bit more bits and bytes on how we make all this work. All right, turn it over to you, Umer.
Thanks, John. So the first example that we're going to look at is a Teams app, which we saw Friday. So once you get into Teams, you send a message to Friday, and the friendly assistant that it is, it's ready to help. And here you ask a question about, in this case, leave policy. And you are asking about eligibility of annual leaves, and it's given an answer on the eligibility. And since we have two regions, it's given leave policy by both of the regions, and it is given a link to where the policy is placed. You can just go and look at the policy. The next question was whether I'm eligible for sick leaves or not, and what the details of sick leaves. It's given the again, it's given the details from the policy document for all of the regions with links to all of those policies to read if you want to. The next question is asking what's the process for requesting an international travel. So there are a couple of things that are relevant to international traveling. It tells that you have to fill out a form, and there are different policies. How can you get a visa for the US? There's a process for that, and it is giving you all of the information from within the policy documents. And you've asked about daily allowances for hotels to the UAE, which was going to be a specific question for a policy from within a particular country or a region, and it has responded with the relevant information from that particular region. The next question is, can I book a hotel on my own, or would someone assist me in doing so? And the answer from Friday is going to be a detail on how, if you are eligible or not, you should get someone's help. You can also do that. And we're going to request Friday if they can help generate a ticket for initiating the travel request on the employee portal. And you'd see on the next response from Friday, it's going to allow the user to ask Friday to create that ticket on their behalf. So it's given the details, and it's told about a particular form that needs to be filled out, and it can also generate a ticket. So you will see this is you're seeing the text prompt at the bottom of the conversation, and you can just go in and do generate that ticket. The next assistant that we are looking at is AutoGenie. So it's a web-based chat assistant, which is a car specialist. This is one of the interfaces that you can use AutoGenie car assistant with, but the same experience is also available over WhatsApp, which is not going to be shown here, but a similar type of conversation can be held on WhatsApp and even on SMS for people who are still in the 90s. You'd see you started off asking AutoGenie that you're looking for a car. It asked a follow-up question on the type of engine you're looking for, the type of car body you'd be looking for. And you told them that I'm actually looking for a car for my family of 5, and I'm looking for a spacious car. So there are certain contexts, and specifically you've mentioned that you're 5 people and you need a spacious car. It followed up with some questions on the type of cars that would be suitable, and you'd see the recommendations it has given. It has summarized a few points below that, and all of them are relevant to spaciousness. It talks about spacious interior, specifically talks about seating capacity for 5 passengers, a large luggage compartment capacity. So it's talking about the relevant reasons for you to believe that this is the right car for you. Another conversation with AutoGenie, again asking to help select a car. and you've given them a specific budget, and you want them to just show cars which are within that particular budget. A budget of 50,000 with a spacious interior. It comes back with some questions, follow up, any particular type of body type you're looking for. Again, you'd see the recommendations are specifically, again, tailored to the context that was given, as well as the budget being given. So it's talking about it being a budget friendly option, and the spacious interior is also highlighted. Another example of a conversation someone will have with is when they're looking for a fuel efficient car. You just say, I'm looking for a fuel efficient car, and now you'll see it has asked a few structured questions in response. The type of engine, the budget range, and it's again given you responses, and now the top 5 points or the features that is highlighting are very relevant to your prompt. Finally, this is just a demonstration that this agent or the particular digital assistant is multilingual. It can speak Spanish, it can speak other languages as well. It can listen to what you say, it can understand what you type, and it can also, in some cases, just read off the images or some handwritten notes you provide to it. So this is all about the AutoGenie product as well. Now that we've seen how these products do, I think it's time for us to understand how the magic behind the scenes happens to make all of this work. So over to you, Sania, for the technical details on how all of this is done.
Sure. Thank you, Umar. So let's deep dive into the more technical detail of the generative AI applications. So as Umar presented the demo, and John and Umar discussed some the business value, that how generative AI application added a business value. And also most of us are using AI tools like like GPT for the daily basis, for the daily routines task. So that's why most of us are thinking that the generative AI application development is just the API access, but it's not the case. So here I'll just discuss the high level building of the AI application. As we know that nowadays we have many pre-trained large language model that is trained on the large or vast amount of the data, like the GPT 3.5, Gemini, and etc. And they also provide some APIs so that we could access this pre-trained model. But to solve some business specific problem, these APIs or these pre-trained model are not enough. What we need to do, that we need to enhance the model using different AI techniques and the methodologies like the retrieval augmented generation, few short learning, prompt engineering, and etc. Once we enhance the model, what we need to do, that we need to expose enhanced solution for application integration. So yeah, that's pretty much about the high level, you can say, the components for the for building the AI application. So let's deep dive into the some generative AI technique, that is a retrieval augmented generation. As I discussed that we have the pre-trained models, but these pre-trained models are not enough to solve the business problem. What this diagram shows, diagram shows that that how large language model interact with the external knowledge source to provide the more contextual or the more relevant responses to the query. So whenever the business problem come, or we need to implement some we need to solve some business problem, what we need to do for the RAG methodology implementation, we need to convert the knowledge sources or data of that business, data of that problem, into the some format that called the embeddings, and this format usually large language model understand. So let's go through the steps of this methodology. So whenever the user interact with the system, it provides some prompt, or you can say the query to the to the system. And the first step would be the system would interact or search the relevant information from the knowledge sources that we converted. You can say that it is an embeddings. And once we have the relevant information, what we need to do, that we need to enhance the user prompt or the user query with the enhanced context. And then we provide this enhanced context to the large language model. In this way, the large language model would be able to understand over custom data, or you can say the business problem related data, and then it returns the most relevant and context enriched data to the user. So yeah, that's one of the technique that most of the people are using to provide the context to the large language model, that is just beyond, that is beyond the pre-trained model. The pre-trained model don't know about the business specific problem business data. So after discussing the one AI methodology or the technique, that is a RAG, let's discuss about the virtual assistant that we are discussing previously, that we see the demos. Most of the virtual assistant that we discuss, and also nowadays they can take that, they can interact with they can interact with the system in two ways. That is the audio based, and you can also add some text query. And also this is a multilingual supported, because this is an international system that we're using, so that the multilingual support always or mostly available in the virtual assistant, as Umar also presented in his demo. So whenever the use, so here I just showed that this virtual assistant is it can take input in the audio and the text form, and it is a multilingual supported. And the knowledge sources that we have for the business problem can be in the structured format and the unstructured format. So in this, whenever we implement this type of the AI methodology, what we need to do, that we need to use multiple languages model. The first step, we'll use the large languages model for the translation, for the speech recognition, so that we could convert the audio to text, and then we need to convert in the specific language. So this is the first step, that where we'll be using the large language model for the translation and for the text to speech to text service. So once we have the data in the textual format, then the LLM agent will come into the part. So what LLM agent will do, that LLM agent on the type with the nature of the complexity of the problem, that what type we have, what type of query we have, what LLM agent will decide at the runtime, that where we need to move it. Either we need to move it from the your AI search, you can say the vector database, or we need to move towards the structured data, that is the SQL. After deciding, the LLM agent will provide the information as per the user query, and will decide at the runtime and provide the you can say the relevant response to the user, and then will convert this response to the user acceptable format. So yeah, this is so this diagram usually provide that how systems are integrating with the LLMs and the user interface to provide the more the contextual and the relevant responses to the user. So in the end, let's discuss the virtual assistant reference architecture. So first we discussed that the some AI methodology, that the RAG, then we discussed the some input and output, and the complete the LLM agent based AI methodology. So now discuss that the end-to-end architecture of the virtual assistant. So as the AI layer and the AI engine is not complete without the data pipelines and the user interface. We need to design some of the data pipelines, as we have as I mentioned, that we can have the data in the multiple format, the structured and the unstructured. It can be real data and it can be the static data. So what we need to do, that we need to maintain and implement some data pipeline So what we need to do that we need to we need to implement some data pipeline so that we can store and manage the data and govern the data in a particular format that our AI layer could understand. Then there will be some user interface come into the part where user can interact across the multiple channel, that the WhatsApp, the Teams, and the web apps. And whenever the user will interact using this channel, the AI layer will come into the part, and the data pipeline will also come into the part and they play the role whenever the new data come and we need to prepare the data. So in this way, this architecture highlights how we can integrate data pipelines, AI layers to create an intelligent, scalable system that delivers personalized response across the multiple user interfaces, enhancing both operational efficiency and the customer engagement. So yeah, that's pretty much about the technical details. Now I would hand over to the John for the further steps.
All right. Well, thank you for that. So we're going to open up the chat now. So if you guys have any questions for Sonia or Umar on either the case studies that we showed or from a technical perspective, the chat should be open now and you can type in your questions that you have. And while people are thinking about their questions, um, want to also offer out to you that we are offering a Gen AI Kickstart program, a complimentary 2-day workshop for any organization that is interested. All you have to do is go in, fill out the survey that we have here, and then we'll go ahead and help you with that. Again, chat is open. Does anyone have any questions? Just feel free to ask your question in the chat section. All right. Seems like you guys did a great job, Sonia and Umar, where no one has any questions. Again, want to thank everybody here for attending today. Um, uh, Greatly appreciate your time. We will save this video and post the recording, and we'll notify you where it is. So if you need to go back and want to look at it again or um, uh, show your show
So
it to
John,
any of your colleagues.
there's a question and someone's also said that they are typing one. We have a
Yeah.
few.
So yeah. So from a technology standpoint, Sonia, can you go back to the architecture slide? Do we have one that shows what the different services are in Azure? Yeah. So here lays out the all the components that we have used in our chatbot surveys. Of course, some of these can be variables in here. Um, while we're using Azure Data Factory, Databricks, SQL, uh, other forms of data like Cosmos DB is involved, including AI search. Sonia, do you want to kind of elaborate a little bit more? But
Yeah,
this is the
yeah.
architecture slide.
Yeah, so we are using the multiple Azure services like the Azure bot services, and we are using the SDK, the Azure bot framework. We are using Azure OpenAI for the LLMs, and then vector database. We are using the Azure AI search, and also you can say so. For deployment, we are using the Azure App Service and the other services for the simple development.
Okay. Yeah. And then from the hesitation about client and data privacy, everybody is concerned about that. So the uh, the thing is with Azure AI services, the data that you put into the system is 100% yours. It does not get shared in the outside. We are using the LLM models through Azure OpenAI, but the data is combined to your environment and your security policies. So none of your data will get shared outside of your organization. So that's what a real use case of why organizations want to implement Copilot and OpenAI in their environment, so they do have complete control and privacy. So um, users will take advantage of ChatGPT. They're using it. Everyone I know is using it from a business world, is using it to some extent, even if it's helping them write some simple emails. And by letting them go out to ChatGPT, you're now taking company data, whatever the contents of that email is, and putting it into the open source format. When you're using Microsoft's enterprise OpenAI, all that data is secure within your walls and doesn't escape out of there. So that's where the hesitation is easily overcome by understanding the architecture that Microsoft has to offer. So I'll let Sonia answer the question about the vector stores because we definitely are doing that. But going back to like even with the HR documents, again, the everything is confidential. All of Microsoft data centers comply with every major security protocol. So Sonia, why don't you take some of these other questions?
Yeah, so as in the question that mentioned that we are storing in vector database, that we are storing the vector databases as in the architecture diagram. You can see that we are using the URI search, where we are storing the embedding and using the URI search as a vector store. And also in the different systems, we are all using some all different vector databases, the open source databases also like Cord and the middleware, etc.
Okay. And then is there any upper limitations of how many documents could be used in the RAG deployment? Um,
Uh,
I from our
y-
experience, are we even reaching any limitations?
Yeah, so it totally depends upon the use cases that we have and also the data quality that we are using for the data quality that we're using for the virtual assistant implementation. So instead of the number of documents, I would say it totally depends upon the data we have in hand to read the particular quality of the responses and the you can say the relevant and the contextual and concise responses. It totally depends upon that.
Okay. And then what about the question on the key metrics to evaluate the performance? I, as a user, will say, hey, it seems like it takes a long time to answer me, but is there performance metrics that we can put in here to monitor it and know average response times, things of that nature?
Yeah, yeah, there are some matrices around the you can say the performance that you mentioned the average response time, latency, and apart from that, we are using some valuation metrics around the accuracy, relevancy, like the blue score, bird score, the cosine similarity. But in the generative AI cases that we just using for the dev testing, and also we are basically we both more rely on the human in loop testing.
So does that answer your questions? Uh, can we know an estimation for the time? Um, and that's a tie-in. How much will it take? Let's go back up to the how much time will it take for an LLM to integrate large data sets from an organization? Like, oh, that's what the question is. So let's say they have 10,000 plus employees and we need to ingest all this information. Are we talking about seconds, hours, days? Sonia, that's for you.
Yeah, so just give me a minute. I'm just reading also how much time it will take LLM to integrate large data set from the organization to learn a response signal could be a document for a large organization for 10. So I I'm just considering that this time, what time we are talking about here, the time is the development time or the LLM execution time or the
I
response
think
time. So it
he's
is
asking about the total time it will take to implement this use case.
Yeah, both.
Both. So obviously it depends on the complexity and the number of documents. So if you even if it's tens and thousands of people and the number of documents is or the policies is not a lot, it's a different complexity. But if it's a lot of documents and it's something that you obviously cannot just give an answer on how much time it will take. But the best way to do is, I think, what we suggest is that you eat the best way to eat the whale is to eat it one bite at a time. So rather than doing it a complete rollout, maybe you do some partial area, maybe by the HR. If it's a lot of documents, maybe you can start off with with one use case in terms of the area of uh, knowledge it would work on. So this something of that sort could probably be done in 8 to 12 weeks, maybe. It's just a tentative timeline. Nobody can give a clear, obviously fast timeline on what would happen, given that we don't have a lot of context. But what it would be best for someone who's trying to do a 10,000 employee initiative, they start with a small initiative and then see how it does. And if it really works out, then they can scale it up.
So I'll start the answer to the last two on misinformation and hallucinations. So common things that ChatGPT gives you in hallucination, it is searching multiple areas for content and information that may not be accurate or not be written in the same content. So you can't be as reliable on the answers in the open source chat GPT when you're trying to combine facts or information. But within a curated system within your environment, it is only using the data that you've provided. So the accuracy of the data and stopping hallucinations, along with the prompt engineering, is pulling the right data based on the system you're creating. And then, Sonia, can you talk about the how do we measure accuracy in this environment? Did we just lose Sonia? Are you still there? There she is. Yeah, how do we measure the accuracy on LLMs based on the prompt, the question, and what's returned?
Yeah. So as I mentioned that to measure the accuracy, we use the different measures like the relevancy, factuality, and there are some, you can say the frameworks also available like the Regas, DeepEval, where we can test it using the measure and the blue score, BERT score, cosine similarity, and this type of metrics is available in which we on the when we'll develop the chatbot or any use case, we also measure its accuracy using these measures, and so that we could assure it that its accuracy is fine and it providing the good business value.
So we're getting close on time here. So we're
So
we're more than
there's one
open.
question.
Yeah.
There's one question I think we've not addressed.
Which one is that?
So what are all of the other ways this AI bot will help, like creating a promotion for a new product? How do we know this gives a high accuracy and information is not miscommunicated? Obviously, how maybe we've answered the second part of the question, but I think for the first part of the question, so I think promotion recommendation has been something that AI has already been doing. So obviously, Gen AI builds up on that. and it kind of personalizes and tailors it to customers, and it communicates to them at the right time and in the right language and in the right context. So I think if you have an AI bot and it knows of all possible promotions, it can maybe micro promote as well. So based on any customer that they are interacting with, they might give me some different kind of promotion and give you a different kind of promotion. It's like uh, being able to manage each customer at their own level or at the microest level. So rather than putting a blanket promotion, Gen AI can help you personalize promotions to each person. When interacting with the person, you would know what's the right promotion to give out to them. So there are a lot of ways you can use such augmentation of other non-Gen AI work as well with Gen AI. But I think the answer is that there are a lot of possibilities of similar and using existing work on this. And I think about the accuracy and information, I think Sani already answered that. So, John, over to you for maybe closing off.
Yeah, so we again appreciate everyone's time that's stayed here. I know we're a minute over. We are more than happy to connect with you after the event and dig into some of the details and use cases you're interested in. Also, you can engage us in our 2-day workshop that will go through some ideation of what might be a good use case for your environment and how we can get started with you and lay out a game plan. So feel free to contact us, um, uh, scan the QR code, and we'll also send a follow-up email. So we appreciate everybody's time, and I want to thank you all and have a great rest of your day, evening, depending on where you're coming from. Thank you, everybody.